Before we dive into this incredible journey, drop a quick comment below. It really helps the algorithm share this story with more sci-fi fans like you. I'd love to see who's watching from around the galaxy. The transmission arrived on all frequencies simultaneously, cutting through encrypted channels like a blade through silk. Every communication array from Luna Base to the outer colonies received the same message, delivered in perfect Terran standard by a voice that carried the weight of absolute authority. By decree of the Hegemony Council, Terra Prime is hereby classified as a reclamation zone. All human settlements will be relocated to designated sectors. Compliance is mandatory. Resistance will be met with appropriate force. In the crystalline halls of New Geneva's Planetary Defense Headquarters, silence stretched like a taut wire. Admiral Zara Voss stood motionless before the central holographic display, her steel-gray eyes reflecting the alien symbols that pulsed ominously in the air. Around the hexagonal conference table, Earth's finest military minds sat frozen in disbelief. "They're serious," whispered Director Kai Nakamura, his usually steady voice cracking slightly. 47 species, the entire Hegemony Council. General Rex Thorne slammed his cybernetic fist onto the polished surface. 30 years of peace treaties, and this is how they repay us? By claiming our homeworld? Admiral Voss finally spoke, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had earned her command of humanity's scattered fleet. "They think we've grown soft. 30 years of trade agreements and diplomatic niceties have made them forget who we really are." "Admiral," interrupted Colonel Lyra Phoenix from the tactical station, "long-range sensors are picking up massive fold-space signatures. Hegemony battle fleets are already moving into our outer system." The display shifted, showing the approaching armada, hundreds of alien vessels representing dozens of species, all converging on humanity's birthworld like vultures sensing weakness. Voss turned to face her assembled officers. "They want to reclaim Earth? Let them try. But they're about to learn why humanity never truly surrenders. We just reload." 72 hours earlier, classified location. Olympus Deep. 3 kilometers beneath the Martian polar ice cap, in a facility that officially didn't exist. Dr. Raven Cross made the discovery that would change everything. Her fingers trembled as she pulled up the quantum scan results on her workstation. "Impossible," she breathed, adjusting her neural interface to process the data more clearly. "The resonance patterns, they're not natural." Her assistant, Dr. Miles Sterling, peered over her shoulder at the holographic readout. "What are you seeing, Raven?" "The quantum foam beneath Earth's crust, it's been artificially structured. Look at these harmonic frequencies." She highlighted sections of the scan with precise gestures. "Someone embedded a vast network into the planet's quantum foundation decades ago." Sterling's face went pale. "You're saying Earth itself has been weaponized?" Before Raven could respond, the laboratory's emergency protocols activated. Red lights bathed the chamber as Director Axel Kane's voice echoed through the speakers. "All personnel to stations. We've just received Priority Alpha intelligence. The Hegemony Council has declared Terra Prime a reclamation zone. Operation Silent Thunder is now active." Raven's eyes met Sterling's, both understanding the horrifying implications. "They don't know," she whispered. "They have no idea what they're walking into." Present Hegemony, flagship Sovereign's Will. High Admiral Vorth Kelleran of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the command bridge of his massive dreadnought, surveying the approaching blue marble that had once been humanity's heart. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the bridge's bioluminescent panels, and his 4 compound eyes tracked the tactical displays with predatory focus. "Status report," he commanded in the clicking dialect of his people. The words automatically translated through the bridge's neural interface. Commander Silex Varn, a sleek Aquarian with flowing tentacles instead of hair, gestured toward the sensor array. "Human defensive formations are minimal, High Admiral. A few patrol craft, some orbital stations. Their main fleet appears to be scattered across the outer colonies." Kelleran's mandibles clicked in what his species considered amusement. 30 years of peace have made them complacent. They've forgotten the art of war. "Sir," interrupted the tactical officer, a crystalline lithoid whose voice resonated like chiming glass. "We're receiving multiple surrender transmissions from human civilian centers. Earth's planetary government is requesting terms for peaceful transition. Ignored, Kelleran replied without hesitation. The Council's directive was clear, complete reclamation. These humans will serve as examples to any species that forgets their place in the galactic order. What the hegemony forces couldn't see were the subtle changes occurring across Earth's surface. Ancient facilities buried beneath major cities were powering up for the first time in 3 decades. Quantum resonators hidden in the planet's crust began their silent awakening. And in the deepest parts of Earth's oceans, things that had been sleeping started to stir. Earth Luna City, Defense Command. Commander Dash Reeves stood in the transparent observation dome of Luna City's command center, watching the alien fleet approach through the starfield. His reflection in the reinforced glass showed a man who had seen too much war, too much loss. The scars on his left temple, souvenirs from the Proxima campaign, seemed to pulse with old pain. "They're beautiful in a way," he said to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Nova Chen. "All those different ship designs representing cultures from across the galaxy. Too bad they're here to enslave us." Nova's fingers danced across her tactical interface, pulling up fleet compositions and weapon signatures. "Sir, I'm reading Zephyrian bioships, Aquarian crystal cruisers, lithoid planet crackers. This isn't just a conquest fleet. They brought enough firepower to glass the entire planet." Dash nodded grimly. "Good. The bigger they are, the harder they fall." He activated his communication array. "Patch me through to Admiral Voss." The hologram flickered to life, showing Voss's stern face from the bridge of her command ship, defiant. "Admiral, Luna Command reporting. The welcoming committee has arrived." Voss's expression remained stoic. "Are your people ready, Dash?" "Born ready. The Luna defense grid is fully charged, and our special packages are in position." He paused, studying the approaching armada. "Think they'll give us the usual surrender ultimatum?" "Count on it. They always do." Voss's smile was razor sharp. "And that's when we remind them why humanity earned its reputation the hard way." Hegemony, Command Frequency Open Broadcast. The transmission that followed would be remembered throughout galactic history as the moment the hegemony learned their first lesson about humanity. High Admiral Kelleran's image appeared on every screen across Earth's communications networks, a towering, insectoid figure draped in the ceremonial armor of his rank. His translated words carried the weight of absolute authority. "People of Terra Prime, you stand at the threshold of a new age. The Hegemony Council has decreed that your world shall be reclaimed for the greater good of galactic civilization. Your governments have failed you. Your defenses are inadequate. Your isolation ends now." He gestured with one clawed appendage toward the vast fleet surrounding Earth. "Surrender is not merely requested, it is inevitable. Lay down your weapons, abandon your military installations, and submit to hegemony authority. Those who comply will be relocated to suitable colony worlds, where you may serve the greater galactic community." The transmission paused, letting the weight of his words sink in across billions of human minds. Then Kelleran leaned forward. "Limor?" His compound eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. "Those who resist will discover why the hegemony has ruled unopposed for 3,000 years. You have 6 hours to decide. Choose wisely." The signal cut to static. For exactly 37 seconds, Earth was silent. Then Admiral Voss's voice crackled across every frequency, every communication array, every hidden military channel that humanity had ever built. "Admiral Zara Voss, Terran Defense Command, to all hegemony forces." Her words were calm, measured, but carried an undertone that made veteran soldiers reach instinctively for their weapons. "You want Earth? Come and take it." She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried the weight of humanity's entire history, every war fought, every battle won, every enemy who had underestimated them. "But let me give you some free advice. You should have done your homework. You should have asked the Makari about Proxima Centauri. You should have consulted the Helix Syndicate about what happened at Kepler 442. You should have learned why every intelligent species in this galaxy has one rule they never break. You don't pick a fight with humanity unless you're prepared to finish it." The silence that followed was pregnant with menace. "Your 6 hours start now." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Mariana Facility, Captain Yaks Volkov stood in the command center of humanity's most classified installation, watching his sonar screens track the massive shapes rising from Earth's deepest ocean trenches. The facility, built into the walls of the Mariana Trench itself, had been dormant for 30 years, waiting for this moment. All Leviathan units responding to wake protocols, reported his chief engineer, Dr. Vera Stone. Her hands moved across the bio-neural interface with practiced precision. Quantum entanglement links are stable. The deep fleet is ready to surface. Jax nodded, his weathered face grim with anticipation. 30 years we've been building down here in the dark. 30 years of preparation for the day someone would be stupid enough to threaten our home. Through the facility's massive transparent aluminum viewports, colossal shapes moved in the abyssal darkness, artificial leviathans the size of city blocks, their hulls crafted from materials that didn't exist on any known periodic table. They rose with predatory grace, each one a fusion of human engineering and technologies recovered from a dozen different civilizations. Surface contact in T-4 minutes, Dr. Stone announced. The hegemony is about to get their first surprise. Hegemony Fleet Outer Perimeter. Captain Zilith Hendaris commanded the Scout Squadron Piercing Light, a formation of sleek reconnaissance vessels tasked with mapping Earth's defensive capabilities. Her photonic heritage gave her the ability to perceive electromagnetic spectrums invisible to most species, making her invaluable for detecting hidden installations. Standard orbital survey shows defensive installations consistent with our intelligence reports, she reported to Admiral Kelleran. Several satellite weapons platforms, some orbital habitats, rudimentary shield generators around major population centers. Her sensor operator, a multi-limbed arachnid named Vexator, suddenly chittered in alarm. Captain, I'm detecting massive quantum fluctuations across the planet's surface. Energy signatures are unprecedented. Before Zeloth could respond, the ocean beneath them began to churn. Massive disturbances appeared simultaneously in the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans, whirlpools of displaced water that seemed to defy the laws of physics. "What in the void's name is that?" she whispered. Her answer came in the form of the first Leviathan breaking the surface. The massive vessel erupted from the Pacific like a breaching whale, sending tsunamis of displaced water cascading in all directions. Its hull, darker than the space between stars, seemed to absorb light itself. Weapon ports opened along its flanks like the eyes of some primordial beast. Then came the second, and the third, and the fourth. Within minutes, dozens of these impossible warships had emerged from Earth's oceans, each one larger than a hegemony battlecruiser, each one radiating power signatures that made Zeloth's instruments scream warnings. "Impossible," she breathed. "Our intelligence showed no deep ocean facilities, no construction signatures. Where did they come from?" Her question was answered by a new voice on the communications array. "Come, professional, utterly human. Hegemony vessels, this is Captain Jax Volkov of the Terran Deep Fleet. You gentlemen seem lost. Let me help you find your way home." Luna City, final preparations. Commander Dash Reeves walked through Luna City's central plaza, watching his people make their final preparations. Children were being evacuated to the deep shelters, while civilian volunteers took their positions at secondary defense stations. The dome above showed Earth in the distance, looking deceptively peaceful despite the alien fleets surrounding it. Lieutenant Nova Chen jogged up to him, her face flushed with excitement and fear. "Sir, all defense grids are powered and ready. The quantum resonance network is fully synchronized with planetside installations." Dash nodded, his eyes fixed on the approaching enemy ships. "Nova, I want you to understand something. What's about to happen, it's going to change everything. The galaxy is going to see humanity in a new light." "Sir?" He turned to face her, and she saw something in his eyes that made her step back. Not fear, not anger, but something far more dangerous. Certainty. For 30 years, we've been the diplomats, the peacemakers, the species that chose trade over conquest, negotiation over annihilation. And that was our choice. He gestured toward the alien fleet. but they just took that choice away from us. Nova felt a chill run down her spine. What are you saying, sir? I'm saying they're about to learn why humanity spent 10,000 years fighting its way to the top of its own food chain. His smile was wolf-like. And why we never forgot those lessons. Hegemony, flagship. The ultimatum. High Admiral Kelleran stood before his assembled fleet commanders, his compound eyes reflecting the tactical displays that showed Earth's defensive positions. Representatives of 47 species filled the command chamber. Aquarians with their flowing tentacles, crystalline lithoids, gas-based nebulans in containment suits, and dozens of others. The humans' response was predictable, he announced. Their Admiral Voss has rejected our ultimatum. They choose resistance over reason. A ripple of approval ran through the assembled commanders. The Zephyrians clicked their mandibles in anticipation, while the lithoids resonated harmonies of satisfaction. However, Kelleran continued, our scouts have reported unexpected defensive installations. These ocean-based vessels appear to be of unknown configuration. We should proceed with appropriate caution. General Mordock of the Brutarian Horde, a massive humanoid covered in metallic scales, let out a booming laugh. Caution? High Admiral, we represent the combined might of the galaxy's greatest civilizations. These humans have been isolated for 3 decades. What could they possibly have built that could threaten us? Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber. The collected might of the hegemony had never been challenged, never been defeated. The humans were simply the latest in a long line of species that had learned to bow before superior force. That confidence lasted exactly 14 more minutes. Earth Quantum Resonance Network activation. Dr. Raven Cross stood in the primary control chamber of the Olympus Deep facility, her hands hovering over the activation controls that would change the course of galactic history. Around her, quantum processors hummed with barely contained energy, their crystalline matrices pulsing with patterns that hurt to look at directly. All planetary nodes report ready, announced Dr. Sterling from his position at the monitoring station. London, Tokyo, New York, Sao Paulo, Lagos, Mumbai. Every major population center is synchronized to quantum grid. Raven took a deep breath. 30 years of preparation, 30 years of embedding quantum resonance matrices into Earth's geological structure. Time to see if it worked. Her fingers moved across the interface with surgical precision. Across the planet, buried installations that had been dormant since the end of the last galactic war came online. Quantum field generators hidden beneath cities began to hum, and deep within Earth's core, something that humanity had built in secret began to wake up. Quantum cascade initiated, she reported. Field coherence at 60% and climbing. On her screens, the impossible began to happen. The space around Earth itself started to change, reality bending in ways that violated everything the hegemony thought they knew about physics. Hegemony, fleet, first contact. The attack began without warning, without declaration, without mercy. One moment, the hegemony advance guard was moving into optimal firing position around Earth's outer orbital shell. The next, space itself turned against them. Captain Ziloth's reconnaissance vessel, Piercing Light, was the first to experience the phenomenon. Her sensor operator, Vexidor, suddenly began shrieking in the high-pitched tones of arachnid distress. Captain, quantum field distortions across all spectrums. Reality displacement at impossible scales. The space around us it's not right. Ziloth felt it before she understood it. A wrongness that seemed to seep into her very atoms. Her photonic heritage allowed her to perceive the electromagnetic spectrum in ways other species couldn't, and what she saw defied comprehension. So, the fabric of space-time around Earth was folding, twisting, creating pockets of altered physics that turned the void into a maze of impossible geometries. Ships that had been 1,000 kilometers apart suddenly found themselves occupying the same space. Weapons that fired in straight lines curved back on themselves. Communication signals arrived before they were sent. Impossible, she whispered, watching her tactical display dissolve into chaos. They've weaponized space itself. Her ship lurched violently as it encountered a pocket of reverse gravity. The hull groaned under stresses it was never designed to handle. Through the viewports, she could see other vessels of her squadron twisting and warping as they were caught in fields of altered physics. The Vigilant probe simply folded in on itself, its matter compressed into a sphere no larger than a marble. The Swift Hunter stretched like taffy, its crew screaming as their bodies were pulled across impossible distances. The keen eye flickered out of existence entirely, neither destroyed nor escaped, just gone. All ships, Xyloth broadcast on the emergency frequency, retreat to minimum safe distance. Repeat, fall back immediately. But there was no safe distance. The quantum distortions were expanding, reality becoming increasingly fluid the closer they came to Earth. And from the planet's surface, new signals were broadcasting, not in the universal trade languages of the galaxy, but in the harsh, precise consonants of human standard. "Hegemony forces," came Admiral Voss's voice, carrying clearly across the chaos. "Welcome to Earth. I hope you're enjoying the tour." Luna City battle stations. Commander Dash Reeves stood in Luna City's command center, watching the tactical displays show the chaos unfolding around Earth. The quantum resonance network was performing beyond their most optimistic projections, turning the space around humanity's homeworld into a nightmare of twisted physics. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Novichen, "Hegemony advanced elements are in full retreat. Their formations have completely broken down." Dash nodded, but his expression remained grim. "That was just the first wave. They'll adapt, regroup, come at us with everything they have. Can the network hold against their full fleet? For a while. But quantum resonance fields require enormous amounts of energy to maintain. We can't keep this up indefinitely." He turned to face her. "Which is why we're not going to play defense." Nova's eyes widened. "Sir?" "Nova, get me a direct line to Captain Volkov and the Deep Fleet. It's time for Phase 2. Deep Pacific, the Deep Fleet rises. Captain Yax Volkov stood on the bridge of the Abyssal Dawn, the flagship of humanity's most secret navy. Around him, his officers worked with the smooth efficiency of a crew that had trained for this moment for over a decade. Through the forward viewports, he could see the other vessels of the Deep Fleet taking their battle positions, massive ships that combined human engineering with technologies scavenged, stolen, or bartered from across the galaxy. "All ships report ready for surface action," announced Commander Tara Blackwater from the tactical station. "Quantum drives are synchronized with the planetary resonance field." Jax nodded. "Very well. Signal the fleet battle formation Alpha. Time to show our guests what we've learned from every species that ever tried to conquer us." The Deep Fleet moved with purpose through the churning waters of Earth's oceans. Each vessel was a masterwork of hybrid technology. Aquarian bioneural networks merged with human quantum processors, lithoid crystalline armor plating, powered by Zephyrian energy cores, photonic beam weapons guided by arachnid targeting systems. "Surface breach in 30 seconds, reported the navigation officer. Jax opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Volkov. 30 years ago, the galaxy taught us a lesson about power. Today, we return the favor. Weapons free. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home." Hegemony, flagship, crisis management. High Admiral Kelleran's command chamber had dissolved into barely controlled chaos. Reports poured in from across his fleet's ships, lost to impossible physics. Formations scattered by spatial distortions. Entire squadrons simply vanishing from sensors. "Explain this," he roared at his science officer, a multi-brained cerebral named Dr. Quinox. "How are the humans manipulating space-time itself?" Dr. Quinox's multiple brains pulsed with bioelectric activity as he processed the incoming data. "High Admiral, the quantum signatures suggest they have embedded resonance generators throughout their planet's geological structure. They're using the planet itself as a massive quantum field manipulator." "That's impossible. Such technology would require resources and knowledge far beyond anything these humans possessed 30 years ago." "Sir," interrupted Commander Silex Varn, "we're receiving new contact reports. Massive vessels are emerging from Earth's oceans. Configuration unknown, but their energy signatures are extraordinary." The main display shifted to show the Deep Fleet as it breached the surface of Earth's oceans. Even Kelleran, veteran of 100 campaigns, felt a chill at the sight. These weren't the crude metal boxes that had characterized human shipbuilding in the past. These were predatory shapes that seemed to merge organic curves with technological angles, their hulls rippling with energy fields that his sensors couldn't classify. "By the ancient void," whispered General Mordok, "what have they built?" His answer came in the form of the first Deep Fleet salvo, weapons that combined technologies from a dozen species fired simultaneously, their beams cutting through space with precision that made the hegemony's finest targeting computers look like children's toys. 3 Zephyrian bioships simply ceased to exist, their complex organic matrices unraveled at the molecular level. "All ships," Kelleran commanded, "emergency dispersal pattern Beta, fall back to maximum engagement range." But the retreat became a rout as more human vessels emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system. Ships that had been camouflaged as asteroids shed their disguises and opened fire. Space stations that had appeared to be simple research facilities revealed themselves to be heavily armed battle platforms. And through it all, Admiral Voss's voice continued to broadcast across all frequencies, calm and implacable. "You wanted to reclaim Earth, Admiral Kelleran, but there's something you should understand about humanity. We've never been conquered because we've never stopped learning. Every species that ever defeated us taught us their secrets. Every technology we encountered, we adapted and improved. For 30 years, we've been students." The transmission paused, and when it resumed, her voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of human warfare. "Class is now in session. Mars Orbital Defense Platform, surprise attack." Lieutenant Colonel Zane Pierce commanded the Mars Orbital Defense Platform Red Hawk, officially a mining and research station orbiting humanity's second planet. Unofficially, it was one of 12 heavily armed battle stations that had been masquerading as civilian installations for the past 2 decades. "Colonel," reported his weapons officer, Sergeant Major Luna Cortez, "Hegemony forces are pulling back from Earth, but they're regrouping near the asteroid belt. Looks like they're planning to use the belt as cover for a flanking maneuver." Pierce smiled grimly. "Then let's give them something to think about. Signal the other hidden platforms it's time to reveal ourselves." Across the solar system, humanity's real defense network came online. What the hegemony had dismissed as mining stations, research platforms, and communication relays were actually nodes in a vast military network that had been built in absolute secrecy. Their weapons powered up, their true nature revealed for the first time in 3 decades. "All platforms report ready," Cortez announced. "We have clear firing solutions on the entire hegemony fleet." "Excellent. Open a channel to their flagship." The holographic display flickered to life, showing High Admiral Kelleran's insectoid features, twisted with confusion and growing rage. "This is Lieutenant Colonel Pierce, speaking for the Soul Defense Network. Admiral, you seem to be under the impression that Earth is undefended. Allow me to correct that misconception." "Oh," Pierce gestured, and across the solar system, humanity's hidden arsenal revealed itself. Asteroid mining ships shed their camouflage to reveal massive railgun batteries. Research stations deployed weapon arrays that had been disguised as scientific instruments. Communication satellites reconfigured themselves into autonomous hunter-killer drones. "We've been watching your species for 30 years, Kelleran. We know your tactics, your technologies, your weaknesses. Did you really think we'd spend 3 decades doing nothing but growing fat and complacent?" "Hegemony fleet," the trap revealed. High Admiral Kelleran stared at the tactical display in growing horror as the true scope of humanity's deception became clear. Red icons were appearing throughout the solar system, weapons platforms that had been hidden in plain sight, disguised as the peaceful infrastructure of a civilization at peace. "Sir," reported Dr. Quinox, his multiple brains working frantically to process the incoming data. "I'm reading weapon signatures from over 300 distinct installations. Energy outputs suggest they're using hybrid technologies, combinations of multiple species designs." "How is this possible?" Kelleran demanded. "Our intelligence networks monitored this system for decades. There were no signs of military buildup, no indication of weapons development." Commander Silex Varn looked up from her sensor array, her Aquarian features pale with shock. "Sir, I think I understand. They weren't building new installations, they were retrofitting existing ones. Every mining platform, every research station, Every civilian facility in this system has been secretly weaponized. The implications hit Kelleran like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't been preparing for war. They had been preparing for this specific war. They had studied the hegemony's tactics, learned their weaknesses, and built their entire defense around exploiting those vulnerabilities. "Sir," came an urgent report from the communications officer. "We're receiving targeting locks from over 50 installations. They have us completely surrounded." Before Kelleran could respond, a new voice joined the communications array, older, more gravelly than Admiral Voss's, carrying the weight of decades of military experience. "Hi, Admiral Kelleran. This is Admiral Marcus Thorne, Sol Defense Command. You and your fleet are now completely surrounded and outgunned. I'm offering you one chance: withdraw from this system immediately, and will allow you to leave with your lives." Kelleran's mandibles clicked with rage. "You cannot threaten the hegemony. We represent 47 species." Admiral Thorne's reply was immediate and devastating. "Admiral, let me explain something about humanity. We don't make threats, we make promises. You have 5 minutes to begin your withdrawal. After that, we'll demonstrate why every intelligent species in this galaxy learned to fear us." Earth, the final gambit. Dr. Ravencross monitored the quantum resonance network from her control station deep beneath Mars, watching as the field generators reached their maximum sustainable output. The space around Earth had become a maze of impossible physics, but maintaining such massive distortions was draining their power reserves at an alarming rate. "Field coherence dropping to 70%, reported Dr. Sterling. "At this rate, we'll lose quantum control within the hour." Raven nodded grimly. "That's what we expected. Signal Admiral Voss, tell her it's time for the final phase." 3 light minutes away, aboard the command ship Defiant, Admiral Zara Voss received the transmission and felt the weight of humanity's future settling on her shoulders. Everything they had built, everything they had prepared for, came down to the next few minutes. "Open a channel to the Hegemony flagship," she ordered. "Full broadcast, all frequencies." High Admiral Kelleran's image appeared on her display, his compound eyes glittering with barely controlled fury. "Admiral Voss," he snarled, "you cannot maintain this abomination of physics indefinitely. When your power fails, we will reduce your planet to ash." Voss smiled, and Kelleran felt something cold crawl down his spine. There was no fear in that smile, no desperation, only grim satisfaction. "Admiral Kelleran, you're absolutely right. We can't maintain the quantum field indefinitely, but we don't need to." She leaned forward, her eyes hard as steel. "You see, while your attention was focused on our defenses, our real weapon was getting into position." "What are you talking about?" Voss's smile widened. "Tell me, Admiral, where do you think our main battle fleet went during your approach? Did you really think we'd scatter our forces across the outer colonies and leave Earth defenseless?" Kelleran felt his certainty beginning to crack. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Computer, show Admiral Kelleran our fleet's current position." The tactical display shifted, and Kelleran's world collapsed. Emerging from the shadow of Jupiter, where they had been hidden by the gas giant's massive electromagnetic field, came humanity's true battle fleet. Not the scattered patrol craft the hegemony had dismissed, but a coordinated armada of capital ships that rivaled anything in the galaxy. Leading them was the Indomitable, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed even the hegemony flagship. Its hull bore the scars of 100 battles, and its weapon arrays pulsed with barely contained power. "Meet the Terran battle fleet," Voss announced. "Every ship crewed by veterans of the Proxima War, the Kepler campaign, and a dozen other conflicts you've tried to forget. Ships that have been retrofitted with technologies we've learned from every species we've ever faced." The fleet began to spread into attack formation, moving with the precision of wolves circling their prey. "You wanted to reclaim Earth, Admiral, but there's something you forgot in your arrogance. Humanity has never lost a war. We were truly committed to winning, and this is our home." Hegemony, flagship, moment of truth. High Admiral Kelleran stood frozen on the bridge of the Sovereign's will, watching as the human battle fleet completed its encirclement. His sensors showed power readings that shouldn't have been possible from human technology, weapon signatures that incorporated the best technologies of dozens of species. "Sir," whispered Commander Silexfarn, They've been planning this for decades. Every diplomatic contact, every trade agreement, every cultural exchange, they were learning from us, studying us, preparing for this moment. Dr. Queenek's multiple brains pulsed with frantic activity. High Admiral, their fleet composition suggests they've reverse-engineered and improved upon technologies from every major hegemony species. Those aren't just human ships. They're hybrids incorporating our own advances. General Mordak's metallic scales rippled with suppressed rage. This is impossible. No single species can stand against the combined might of the hegemony. That's where you're wrong, came a new voice over the communication array. The display showed the bridge of the Indomitable, and the figure standing at its center made several of the hegemony commanders step back in recognition. Fleet Admiral Kane Blackwood had been presumed dead for over a decade, lost during the last major conflict between humanity and the hegemony. But here he stood, older, scarred, but very much alive. "Hello, Kelleran," he said, his voice carrying the weight of old battles and older grudges. "Surprised to see me? You should be. I've spent the last 15 years learning everything there is to know about your forces, your tactics, your weaknesses." Kelleran's voice was barely a whisper. "You're supposed to be dead. Dead men don't hold grudges, Admiral, but I'm very much alive, and I remember every human life your hegemony has cost us." Blackwood stepped forward, his eyes burning with cold fire. "Today we settle the account. The human fleet opened fire. The battle of Seoul. Overwhelming force. What followed could barely be called a battle. It was a demonstration of what happened when humanity's greatest military minds had 30 years to prepare for a specific enemy. The hegemony fleet, impressive as it was, had been built for traditional space warfare long-range exchanges between capital ships, with victory going to whoever could bring the most firepower to bear. But humanity had learned different lessons from their history of warfare. The Terran ships moved like a pack of predators, using the quantum distortions around Earth to appear and disappear at will. They struck at weak points, disabled key systems, and vanished before the hegemony could respond. Weapons that should have missed curved through impossible angles to find their targets. Ships that seemed to be in one location were actually firing from another. Captain Yaks Volkov's deep fleet emerged from the oceanic depths with weapons that made the sea itself their ally. Bio-neural torpedoes that thought for themselves, seeking out the most vulnerable points on enemy vessels. Quantum depth charges that folded space around their targets, crushing ship hulls like aluminum cans. The hidden defense platforms throughout the solar system revealed the true scope of humanity's deception. What the hegemony had cataloged as mining operations were actually massive railgun installations. Research stations deployed swarms of hunter-killer drones that moved with inhuman precision. Communication satellites reconfigured into kinetic bombardment platforms, raining tungsten rods down on hegemony formations with devastating accuracy. High Admiral Kelleran watched his mighty armada being systematically dismantled. The Sovereign's will shuddered under impacts from weapons that seemed to anticipate his evasive maneuvers. His bioships were being consumed by some kind of nanite plague that the humans had somehow weaponized. His crystal cruisers were shattering under harmonic frequencies that resonated at exactly the right pitch to compromise their molecular structure. "Impossible," he whispered, watching another dreadnought fold in on itself as human quantum weapons tore it apart at the subatomic level. "How do they know our weaknesses so precisely?" Fleet Admiral Blackwood's voice answered him across the chaos. 30 years, Kelleran. 30 years of pretending to be your friends while we studied every ship, every weapon, every tactical doctrine you had. Did you think those cultural exchanges were one way? Every hegemony officer who visited Earth was scanned, analyzed, debriefed. Every piece of technology you showed us was reverse-engineered and improved. The Indomitable moved through the battle like a force of nature, its hybrid weapon systems combining the best technologies of 47 species into something greater than the sum of its parts. Cephirian bioneural networks guided lithoid crystalline projectiles powered by Aquarian energy cores, all coordinated by quantum computers that made instantaneous tactical decisions. "Sir," Commander Silex Varn reported, her Aquarian features pale with shock. We've lost 60% of our fleet. The humans aren't just defeating us, they're dissecting us. Every weakness we have, they know about and exploit. Earth the Revelation. Dr. Ravencross watched the battle unfold from her control center, monitoring the quantum field that was finally beginning to destabilize. But it had served its purpose. The hegemony fleet was scattered, demoralized, and being systematically destroyed. Field coherence dropping to 40%, reported Dr. Sterling. We're losing quantum control. It doesn't matter now, Raven replied, watching the tactical displays. The fleet has them, but Sterling, there's something else. Something I discovered in the quantum scans that I haven't told anyone. Sterling looked up from his console. What is it? Raven pulled up a deep field scan of Earth's quantum substrate, showing patterns that pulsed with alien regularity. The quantum network we built it wasn't just embedded in Earth's crust. It connected with something that was already there, something ancient. What do you mean? Earth isn't just our homeworld, Sterling. It's been someone else's weapon for millions of years. And we just woke it up. Deep space. The ancient guardian. At the edge of the solar system, something stirred in the darkness between worlds. It had slept for eons, waiting for the right combination of quantum frequencies to rouse it from its slumber. The Human Defense Network, in its desperate bid to protect Earth, had inadvertently provided that frequency. The entity was vast beyond comprehension, not a ship or a station, but something that had been disguised as an asteroid for so long that stellar dust had accumulated on its surface. But now, as quantum resonance cascaded through its ancient systems, it began to remember its purpose. It had been left here by the precursors, the vanished race that had seeded the galaxy with life before disappearing into legend. A guardian programmed with one simple directive: protect the children who would one day emerge from the third planet. Humanity had just proven they were worth protecting. Hegemony, flagship, final moments. High Admiral Kelleran felt his ship dying around him. The Sovereign's will, pride of the Zephyrian fleet, was being torn apart by weapons that seemed to know exactly where to strike for maximum damage. His compound eyes tracked the chaos on his tactical displays, watching the final destruction of the greatest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. Sir, croaked Dr. Quinox, his multiple brains flickering with failing bioelectric activity. Long-range sensors are detecting something massive at the system's edge. Power signature is unprecedented. Kelleran barely had time to process this information before Fleet Admiral Blackwood's image appeared on his display one final time. Admiral Kelleran, Blackwood said, his scarred face grim with satisfaction. It's over. Your fleet is destroyed. Your forces scattered. But I'm going to give you something your kind never gave us a chance to surrender. Surrender? Kelleran's mandibles clicked with bitter laughter. The hegemony does not surrender to primitives. Then you'll die like the rest of your fleet. Blackwood's expression didn't change. But before you do, let me teach you one final lesson about humanity. We don't just fight wars, we end them. Permanently. The Indomitable fired its main batteries, and the Sovereign's will ceased to exist. Sol System, Victory, and Revelation. Admiral Zaravos stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the last hegemony ships flee into hyperspace. The battle was over. Earth was safe. But the cost? Casualty reports, she ordered. Surprisingly light, Admiral, reported her tactical officer. The hegemony forces were so focused on our deceptions that they never managed to mount an effective counterattack. We lost 3 destroyers and took moderate damage to several cruisers, but nothing we can't repair. Voss nodded, but her attention was drawn to the massive shape emerging from the outer darkness. The ancient guardian had fully awakened, its hull, if it could be called a hull, stretching across thousands of kilometers. It pulsed with energies that made human quantum technology look like children's toys. A transmission reached them not through their communication arrays, but directly into their minds. The voice was ancient beyond measure, carrying the weight of geological ages. Children of Earth, it said, you have proven yourselves worthy. The precursors chose well when they seeded your world with potential. You have become what they hoped guardians worthy of their legacy. Fleet Admiral Blackwood appeared on the display from the Indomitable, his face showing the same awe that Voss felt. Admiral, are you receiving this? Everyone in the system is receiving it, Kane. The question is, what does it want? The ancient voice continued. The hegemony believed they ruled this galaxy. They were wrong. You are the inheritors of the precursor's domain. But with that inheritance comes responsibility. You must choose, will you become conquerors like those you just defeated, or will you become something greater? The Galactic Senate convened for the first time in 3,000 years, representatives from every known species gathering on the neutral world of Sanctuary Prime. The hall buzzed with nervous energy as delegates tried to process the new reality. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy, they had liberated it. The hegemony's iron grip had been broken, their client species freed to govern themselves. But more importantly, humanity had revealed the existence of the precursor guardian and the ancient databases it carried. Admiral Zara Voss, now bearing the title of Terran Ambassador, stood at the central podium. Around her, the representatives of hundreds of species waited to hear humanity's terms. Fellow sapiens, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. 6 months ago, your leaders came to Earth with threats and ultimatums. They sought to reclaim our world, to subjugate our people. They believed that might made right, that the strong should rule the weak. She paused, letting her words sink in. They were wrong. Today we offer you something the hegemony never did a choice. Join us in building a new galactic community, one based on cooperation rather than domination, on mutual respect rather than fear. Help us explore the gifts the precursors left behind, and together we'll build something worthy of their legacy. A Zephyrian delegate rose from his seat. And if we refuse, will you conquer us as the hegemony did? Voss smiled. That's the difference between us and them. If you refuse, you're free to go. But understand this, the old ways are ending. The hegemony's rule by force is finished. You can be part of building something better, or you can face the future alone. Across the chamber, delegates began to stand, first a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Species that had been enemies for millennia found themselves united by a common hope. The Aquarian representative was the first to speak. The Deepwater Collective accepts humanity's proposal. We choose cooperation over conquest. The Lithoid harmonized their agreement, their crystalline voices ringing like bells. The Photonic delegate flickered agreement in patterns of light. Even some of the former hegemony species added their voices to the growing chorus. As the session continued, Admiral Voss felt a deep satisfaction. Humanity had indeed learned the lessons of war, not just how to fight, but when to stop fighting. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Conquerors who chose not to conquer. The ancient guardian, still orbiting Earth, pulsed with what might have been approval. The children of the third planet had chosen well. Final transmission, personal log of Admiral Zara Voss. End of cycle report, Admiral Zara Voss recording. It's been a year since the hegemony fell, and the galaxy is different. Better, I think, though not everyone agrees. We've established the Terran Commonwealth, incorporating over 300 species who chose cooperation over isolation. The precursor databases have revealed technologies that will take us centuries to fully understand. But already we're seeing advances in medicine, energy production, and space travel that seemed impossible just months ago. Some of my officers think we were too lenient. Commander Reeves still argues we should have pressed our advantage, established Earth as the new galactic capital. But I think we made the right choice. Fear might have given us an empire, but it wouldn't have given us what we have now, genuine partnership with species across the galaxy. The Guardian speaks to us sometimes, sharing fragments of precursor wisdom. It tells us we're not the first species to face this test, but we're the first to pass it completely. The precursors themselves failed in the end, becoming so powerful they forgot what it meant to be mortal. They left the Guardian as a failsafe, hoping someone would eventually prove worthy of their inheritance. Now, apparently, we have. The former hegemony species are adapting to their new reality. Some, like the Aquarians and Lithoids, have embraced the Commonwealth wholeheartedly. Others remain suspicious, but they're learning that we meant what we said. We rule no one but ourselves. High Admiral Kelleran survived the destruction of his flagship. Though he spent 3 months in medical care, he's requested permission to visit Earth to understand how we did it. I think I'll approve the request. It's important that he see what we built not as a threat, but as proof that there's another way. Humanity spent 30 years pretending to be diplomats while secretly preparing for war. Now we're learning to actually be diplomats while maintaining the strength to protect what we built. It's a harder balance than I expected. But we're learning. We always do. End log. The galaxy had learned a new lesson. When you threaten humanity's home, you don't just face their military might, you face their determination to build something better from the ashes of what you tried to destroy. And that perhaps was the most human thing of all. The end.